A number of you have asked how you can actually view the translation memory and the terminology database. Strictly speaking, this is not normally something that you would need to do, because when you elect to translate a document using metatexis, it segments the text, as I demonstrated in the last note. It searches the translation memory and the terminology database, and if it finds a match, it puts it in the text. However, since a number of you were keen to see how you might actually look at it, this is what you need to do. So I'm going to go up to the metatexis menu, and I'm going to choose translation memory, and you can see one of the options here is display main TM. And here you can see what the translation memory looks like. If you look at the so-called active data set here, you can see that we're presently looking at the first segment, segment 1 of 359. And in the windows over here on the right, you can see the source segment 1 with its accompanying translation. So you can navigate through the translation memory just using the VCR-like buttons at the bottom here. So I could just go through a segment at a time. Now, one thing that is potentially quite useful here, if you look at the little window up here, I'm going to put in a search term. So I'm going to search my translation memory for the French word fusion. And if I press enter, see what's happened. If you look at the so-called active data set here, it has now identified the fact that the word fusion appears in 3 of my segments. We're looking at the first of them there, and helpfully the search term is highlighted in yellow. And we can just check on these, just going from segment to segment. In other words, the translation memory is searchable, and that's potentially quite useful because it brings up a contextualized version of the term that you're looking for. Now we can do the same with the terminology database. Again, if I go back up to the metatexis menu, terminology database, and at the bottom here you'll see that it says display the main TDB, and you can see that I've only got 13 items in here. These were put in really just for illustrative purposes. Note though that for assignment 2 I'm asking you to produce a terminology database with about 100 entries, and I think that you will probably find that the terminology database is probably going to be more useful for most of you in your translation than the translation memory. It will depend very much on your topic, how repetitive your texts are, how technical they are. Now you can see here that it's pretty much the same layout that we had with the translation memory. It's just that I've got much shorter items here. The point about that being that you're consequently much more likely to get a hit to find one of these technical terms. The nice thing is that you can, if you look down here, you can actually class your entries into categories. You can add notes, and you can give examples. I'm currently working on a fairly technical piece of computing French with a group of final year specialized translation students, and they're working on the translation of a tutorial about a desktop publishing package called Scribus. And that particular package has a sort of subset of terminology. So what I'm trying to get them to do is to embed within their terminology database a reference to this translation being, if you like, peculiar to that particular software package, and other entries would have a particular translation if they're referring, say, to the Windows environment as opposed to a Linux environment. And you can see that at the bottom here you can add new entries, and I suggest to you that this is how you are going to want to enter your TDB entries when you come to do the second assignment. If I can just conclude this broadcast by drawing your attention to a new feature, which is the so-called Translation Scout. This has only appeared in the most recent releases of metatexis, and if you click on that, I've hit a problem here with Word, so I'm going to have to stop. Okay, you can see what's happened here. That problem was not caused by metatexis, it's caused by the software I'm using to record this little tutorial, which is making my laptop work quite hard. So as I say, this is the Scout is a new feature, and I just want you to see what you would need to do before you can use this. If you open up the options box, you can see that what I've done here is specify my source and target language. I've specified here the file containing my translation memory, and I've done the same with my terminology database. So this again is where you would tell the Scout what your source and target languages are, and where it should look for the translation memory and the terminology database that you want to use. And the way that it works, if I type in the same word that I was looking for earlier on, right, the little letter C here stands for concordance search. So what it's done, as you can see, it's gone off, it's searched the translation memory, and it's come up with the same three segments that we identified earlier when we were looking at the translation memory. But you can see here, so it's found 3 hits. It's displaying the first in there. We can see the source text window, and there's the translation down there. And you can scroll down to the next one, pretty much as we did a moment ago when we were looking at the translation memory. Now, as I say, this is a new tool in the more recent release, and I think it's quite an attractive addition to the program. Okay, what I'm going to do is upload these 2 little audio notes to my web server, and then I'll build a link to them in Blackboard. What I propose to do, as you are posting problems into the discussion board, what I will do where it is appropriate is try to produce one of these little commentaries, assuming that is that you find them useful. So I'd be interested to get some feedback in the discussion board about whether you find these useful or not.